Hello everybody. Recently I just watched Ant-Man and the Wasp. There we go, boom boom. I went to go see it and I thought the movie was absolutely fantastic, but before I get to the review, let's start off first with Ant-Man and the Wasp, directed once again by Peyton Reed, starring Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, Michael Douglas, Michael Pena, Hannah John Kamen, Michelle Pfeiffer, Lawrence Fishburne, and Walton Goggins. Let's first start off with the story. It takes place pretty much after Civil War, which, well, kind of is, but it's in the present day, but before Infinity War. You get to see what actually happened to Ant-Man, why he was absent from Infinity War, and where he's actually at. He goes through house arrest instead of being put behind bars after he got bailed out by Captain America, and pretty much, yeah, it's pretty much 2 years that he was in house arrest, almost 2 years before he gets released. And then with that, he gets to see these weird visions of him seeing Janet Van Dyne getting into his mind. And with that, he calls in Hank Pym, calls in Hope. And then with that, that's when the plot settles up. We get to see that this is more of a personal adventure for Hope and Hank to look for their estranged for the estranged mother, or wives, I should say, one of the Van Dyne family, but at the same time we get to see more of the story develop. And then with that, there's twists and turns that actually happen. Ghost wants in on this, and in order to save herself, which we'll get to in a bit. The story itself is actually great. We get to see many twists and turns of it, and I thought the story itself is fantastic, and I'll give that a plus. Number 2, Paul Rudd once again does deliver a great job. I thought he's much more funnier, his jokes are hilarious, and I thought his performance here as Ant-Man was good, even though it got a little underdeveloped. He doesn't get much screen time as much as the Wasp, which we'll get to later, but to me, in my opinion, Ant-Man, Scott Lang, does deliver a great performance by Paul Rudd, and he once again does deliver the magic and everything else that he did from the beginning, but here he makes it much more better. Even though he gets the spotlight stolen a little bit by the Wasp, not so much, but I thought his performance was absolutely great. And as for the Wasp, played by Evangeline Lilly, I thought she was absolutely great, and her being in action was absolutely cool. And also teaming up with Scott Lang, or should I say Ant-Man, was absolutely fantastic. And I thought, in my opinion, was the highlights of the movie, them teaming up together to take down whatever gets in the way, especially with this one guy named Sonny Birch who keeps getting in their way, which we'll get to in a bit, and also Ghost, who keeps getting involved of trying to get in the way of solving the mystery of where Hope Van Dyne's mother is actually at. And then that's when like many twists and turns happens, and that's when Ant-Man and the Wasp fight in order to team up together in order to fight against the Ghost, which we'll get to later. But to me, Evangeline Lilly as the Wasp absolutely does a fantastic job. Michael Douglas once again does a fantastic job as Hank Pym. I thought, in my opinion, he delivers better lines than the beginning, because I remember back in comicbook.com that he was kind of come back, but under one condition: he's not going to do these lines because it's hard for him to memorize. I understand it's age and he's a bit old, so not to call him old, but he once again does deliver, but solid lines. They're still there, but they're a little bit shorter than the previous movies. But to me, Michael Douglas as Hank Pym does a great job. And with that, the supporting cast as for Luis, Dave, Kurt, and then also the FBI agent Jimmy Woo, I thought their performances were absolutely great. I think Luis once again is much more hilarious in this movie, even though he does deliver like the jokes in the movie, especially also with Ant-Man with his jokes and everything else. But to me, Michael Pena once again does deliver. But the good thing, Ships did not do well because the movie was absolutely terrible, and I thought him being part of this franchise does deliver more, because come on, like, don't go anywhere, Michael Pena. Please stick around for the MCU for quite some time, especially for the third film. And especially his friends too, Dave and Kurt, which were hilarious, and the FBI agent Jimmy Woo. I find him a bit awkward, but then later on when he has a bit of a friendship with Scott Lang, I thought to me it was absolutely funny and yeah, hilarious. And the rest of the supporting cast, especially the daughter Cassie Lang, was to me the best part of the movie. And to Cassie Lang, talking with their father, spending time with their father, to me those were actually great moments, daughter and father moments. And yeah, I give the supporting cast absolutely plus. And also, we'll get to a few other characters in a bit, because I want to get to first, to the cut to the chase, the action scenes. The action scenes are a lot more better from the previous movies. Well, a little bit, because the original one we get to see Ant-Man go against the Falcon, which was absolutely cool. Ant-Man fighting against Yellow Jacket was also cool, even though he was a bit of a generic villain. To me, the action was absolutely solid, and especially with Ant-Man and the Wasp teaming up together to take down the Ghost, Sonny Birch, which we'll get to in a bit, and also other obstacles that get in the way. And to me, I thought it was absolutely highlight, especially when they were shrinking, which we'll get to here. The CGI and the shrinking, especially the quantum realm, was absolutely really cool. I would have loved to see more of that, but to me, I would have wished to see a bit like more screen time, even though it kind of looks a bit expensive how the way the quantic realm looks like, especially the budget too. But yeah, the action, the shrinking action, especially Ant-Man growing to Giant Man and to also Little Man, and then there's also a bit of a twist of what happens to him too, with especially with the when he shrinks into a kid size, which to me was absolutely hilarious. And yeah, I find the action scenes really great, and I give that a plus, especially the quantic realm. I would have loved to see more of it, but yeah, I give it that. The jokes aside, I thought to me were much more hilarious from the previous films. Some of them didn't land, but a few of them managed to land, especially with Michael Pena's character Luis was hilarious, especially with the lines that he delivered from the original, but actually improvised a little bit here, which a little bit improvised, and especially also with Scott Lang joking around, especially with Hank, Hope, and then also Luis, and especially with the villains too, especially that. And yeah, I give the jokes absolutely praise to that. And here comes the weak parts. The villains, well, I don't find them quite weak. To me, Ghost was a great villain. We get to see her, develop to see what... There's a bit of a twist here. She's actually suffering from her disappearing, and she kind of needs the cure from the quantic realm, kind of like a bit of a sickness. And then with that, to me, she's managed to she's doing this in order to survive, in order to get into the quantic realm and at least achieve that in order to... She's great, but half and half. But here's the weak sauce of this. Sonny Birch, Walton Goggins' character. I find him a bit weak and unnecessary on the movie because all he wanted was, he was interested in the research of what Hank Pym does and he wants his hands on it. And to me, I would have loved to see more of Ghost taking over this, but Sonny Birch, Walton Goggins, no offense, man, your performance was great, but it was unnecessary to be here on this movie, especially that, yeah, once again, we gotta at least have a female and a male villain in order to proceed the movie, because it's Ant-Man and the Wasp, male and female, versus against a male and a female, even though we get that. And also, we're not going to put it, I never mentioned Lawrence Fishburne's character, which is Bill Foster. I thought he was great, even though I can't believe he went from Marvel to DC, Marvel as voicing the Silver Surfer, from DC as Perry White, and then back to Marvel to be Bill Foster, or should I say the original Goliath, who actually does a solid job. And to me, I don't know what Lawrence Fishburne's going to do. I don't know how the schedule is going to be, especially with the DCEU's developing in order to fix their extended universe. I am a DC fan, as you can see, and I also am a huge Marvel fan. I just don't know how it's going to work between that, but I think Lawrence Fishburne does a solid job in this movie, and yeah, I would love to see more of him here. I do want to see more of him as Perry White in the DC extended universe. I don't want him gone, so please don't leave Lawrence Fishburne. As for the cons of the movie, like I said in the very beginning, I would have loved to see more of the Ant-Man in the movie. I thought his spotlight was stolen a little bit by the Wasp. I'm not saying I hate that. I like it that she steals the show, and I kind of felt like Ant-Man was a little underutilized and unused on this movie. That much, not so much. Even though every action scene that he was in, especially the Wasp, was actually a scene stealer, but to me, it kind of felt a little short because this movie doesn't suffer sequelitis. The movie does much better than the first movie, a lot more. But to me, it just manages to fall short, because I would have loved to see a little bit more Ant-Man and the Wasp have the the exact same screen time in order for them to at least have themselves develop more. And then with that, it would have been better. So yeah, my final verdict with that would be an 8 out of 10. It's tied to the original Ant-Man. It's an 8 out of 10, 8 out of 10. It's not bad. To me, it does get a yes seal of approval. And yeah, I thought in my opinion, everything else was great. The villain was a bit weak, but then later on, how the way she's developed in order to survive, it managed to at least help out. Even though Marvel was doing so good with the villain side, especially with Ego, Hela, Vulture, Killmonger, Thanos especially, and well, Ghost does well in the beginning, but then later on falls a little short, but then after that kind of picks up a bit, but gets kind of stolen by Sonny Birch, which kind of like at least made Marvel falter on the villain side. So yeah, yes, guys, I did forgot, and I never did manage to say anything about this, but I am working on this, and yeah, I got the game, and I wish Ant-Man and the Wasp was in this game, but I don't know what's going on with Marvel and Capcom. I don't know if they're letting their bygones be bygones, but and I'm sad that they didn't show up at E3, which kind of sucks. Maybe EVO or maybe Comic-Con. Who knows? Who knows? That's coming up next, but before I do that, I got something here that might surprise you guys. I got this bad boy here which got re-released because Nintendo didn't make enough copies of these, especially what they actually been through, and especially this. I got this exactly when it came out, and especially this too. Well, not from 2016. I got this last week, and I haven't played it yet. I haven't opened it yet. I will do an open box video in order to see what's inside and how long the cord is. And I do have the original video for this of me opening this box and what games it contains. Yeah. That is my update of what future videos are coming soon, and I hope to see you guys next time. Sorry I was a little stuttering, guys. A lot's going through in my mind and life and stuff like that. So I hope to see you guys next time with either me opening these games and reviewing it a little bit. And yeah, I hope Nintendo doesn't pull off a dick move and copyright claims me because of this. Just thank me, Nintendo, because I bought these consoles, and I want to thank you guys to at least bring the original Nintendo, because these things are rare, and people who sell this on the internet for triple the money is completely pathetic. Why do you do that? That's just stupid. I understand that you're trying to do this for a living, but at the same time, don't sell it for triple the money. That's kind of a stupid move. And yeah, so I'll see you guys next time with either this, the Nintendo opening, or Marvel vs. Capcom. And yeah, no more waiting, no more BS. I gotta do this before Comic-Con. And yeah, as I mentioned, I'm a DC fan, and I want to see DC do better, because the Marvel's still kicking their ass, and DC does admit defeat. And I want DC to get their shit together, because they do good in the video game and animation productions, but in the movies, they're starting to tumble. Even though Wonder Woman was an absolute, almost near masterpiece of a movie, Justice League was good, but was short, and the villain was a bit on the weak sauce. I just hope DC manages to at least live up, manage to do what they did best. Just stick to how DC is. Don't be like Marvel. Do your thing, DC, and just don't rush things out the gate, because sometimes other cinematic universe can run a little still after one final chapter ends, because I want DC to take their time and develop the characters and to have their own solo movies in order for this to anticipate the fans and everyone else for future movies. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time with Nerd of the 90s.